Today on Disney's, I am excited to dive in and discover which ship is truly the best ship in Disney Cruise Line's fleet. The 4 categories we are going to use to determine which ship is the best are ports, theming, food, and pixie dust. So starting off, the Wish is the cruise ship that was released most recently. The Disney Wish is the 5th ship in the fleet. Their maiden voyage was July 2022, just last year. The ship also can accommodate 4,000 guests. For the ports, the Wish is very limited. They do cruise to the Bahamas exclusively. The Bahamas are beautiful, but it is very limited. They will have the stop at the private island, Castaway Cay, and Lighthouse Point, so that does help them a little bit. The Wish comes in with a 3 for ports. Now for theming, they are on the entire opposite end of the scale. The Wish and the future ships are going to be themed a lot more than these first 4 ships. When you walk onto the Wish, the atrium, or as they call it, the Grand Hall, has a beautiful chandelier that is based upon Cinderella's dress. As you can see, they're going to have Cinderella in here. They've got the glass slipper. This is really meant to be like a fantasy castle at sea. So the chandelier is Cinderella's dress upside down with the wishing star at the very bottom. Their theming in all of the areas is really much more in depth on the Disney Wish. The youth clubs are going to have Star Wars Cargo Bay. They have this area where they can go in and build a roller coaster, and then they can sit in the little simulator and ride it. Very cool. I am definitely going to check that out during open house. They also have the Fairy Tale Hall, this cool slide that goes down to the kids club. Their restaurants are a lot more themed as well, every single one of them. So the Wish really just takes that theming over the top. So for those reasons, the Wish gets a 9 in theming. They will actually have the Kiss Goodnight in the Wish, so check into that when you're on board as well. For the food, the Disney Wish has the best food in the fleet, hands down. Their 3 main dining restaurants are all themed, with 2 of them being themed to the max. Arendelle will have a show as well as themed food to go with it. Worlds of Marvel also has a show and themed food. And their 3rd main dining restaurant, 1923, is really themed on animation. There are over 1,000 pieces of animation, tools, drawings, etc. inside 1923. They also have a dining room for Walt and Roy. I think that's just really cool. In addition to that, they have changed the traditional cabanas buffet style to Marceline Market, where there are individual areas you can go to order, which makes the flow a lot easier. It's still gonna be very chaotic, a lot of energy up there, but I do believe that helps a lot. In addition, some of their foods in the quick service and buffet areas are different. They're gonna have barbecue, they have Mexican food. The Disney Wish gets a 9 for food as well. The only reason it's not up to a 10 is because not everything is the best. For the extras and the days at sea, that pixie dusting, the Wish just has it over the top a little bit. For the youth clubs, the teen youth club, they don't have that private pool, so that's certainly a consideration. They do have the Aqua Mouse on the Disney Wish, which is the first animated coaster at sea. They have the Star Wars Hyperspace Lounge also, which is very unique. And then of course the simulators and the kids club, all those variances are really special on the Wish, which brings the extra and pixie dusting score to a 9 for the Wish, giving them a total score of 30. Moving on, the Disney Magic is the first ship in Disney Cruise Line's fleet. It and the Wonder are called the classic ships. They are a bit smaller than the Dream and Fantasy. They have 11 decks, and they can hold approximately 2,500 people. The Fantasy and Dream will also be quite similar. We'll go through those similarities and those differences. So let's dive into the Magic first and see how it's going to rank. Starting with ports and itineraries between November 2023 and May 2025, the Disney Magic is sailing to the Bahamas, the Caribbean, Mexico, and the Panama Canal, as well as both of Disney's private islands, Castaway Cay and Lighthouse Point. The Magic does have a nice variant of how many nights. For their itineraries, they have anywhere from 1 to 14-day or more cruises. The 14 or more is that Panama Canal. So for the most part, it's between 2-night cruises and 7-night cruises. The Magic does have some good ports here, but they are pretty generic, except for the Panama Canal cruise. That is unique to the Magic only. The Bahamian, Caribbean, and Mexican cruises are available on other ships as well, and they are their most cruised areas, so they're going to score a little bit lower on that port section, with the Panama Canal being the one that really sets the Magic a little bit apart. So for the Magic, out of a scale of 1 to 10, the Magic earned a 6 in this category. Moving on to the theming category. Now these are Disney cruise ships, so there is subtle theming everywhere throughout the ship. A lot of Easter eggs, nods to movies, parks, but for the purpose of ranking these ships, we are really referring to those themes that are a bit more immersive, over-the-top experiences. The lobby on the Disney Magic is truly beautiful, classically beautiful. It has an Art Deco motif. It's themed around the sea, so you're going to see those seashell designs and colors. There's a really beautiful classic feeling in this atrium. It is one of my favorites, actually. And we've got Helmsman Mickey on the statue, and this chandelier is really meant to act like the sun. Besides the Art Deco theming throughout the ship, you're also going to have some theming in the restaurants. Animator's palette is going to be on the first 4 ships, and for the Magic and Wonder, it is definitely a little bit more of the theming aspect. The Magic also has Rapunzel's Royal Table. They will have a dinner show and menu that is themed to Rapunzel, which is a really fun themed meal. The Disney Magic added the Soul Cat Lounge during their last dry dock in 2023. These dry docks occur frequently, and so that's how they really keep these ships up to date. Plus, they are constantly cleaning the ships all day and all night. So for the Magic, they got a 6 in theming. Now for the food. You know, it is kind of hard to award the food category because there are a lot of similarities across the ships and a few key differences that really stand out. For the Magic, it is going to be that Rapunzel's Royal Table that really stands out for them. Everything else is pretty generic. They've got the Cabanas buffet, they've got your traditional burgers and pizza up on deck, and they've got the room service. So they're gonna get a 6 on food as well. And spoiler alert, Magic is gonna get a 6 in every category, but they are the only one that did this. There's some really good variants that I was kind of surprised to see when we were going through this list. But let's get through the Magic first. One of the points that is strictly for the Magic in the extras category is the Aqua Dunk. It is a drop slide and it is only available on the Disney Magic. The Aqua Dunk is really what sets the Magic apart, in addition to the fact that because the ship is a little smaller, there are going to be less people on board. It is a little bit smaller ship, but it really is nice to have less people, especially if you're going to the private island. Because less people on board means less people on the private island. So the Magic gets a 6 in the extra and Pixie Dust category as well, for a total score of 24. And if you are enjoying these videos, please consider sharing this with a friend. I really am looking to hit some goals this year, and if you share with your friend or cruise group, that really will help us out. Okay, back to the fun stuff. Moving on to the Wonder, I will tell you right now, the Disney Wonder is one of our favorite ships in the fleet. It is the second of the 2 classic ships. The Disney Wonder's maiden voyage was in August 1999. This is an 11-deck ship that holds approximately 2,700 passengers. The Disney Wonder will be sailing to Alaska, Hawaii, Mexico, New Zealand, Australia, Pacific Coast, and the South Pacific. And in addition to all of these ports, they also have a variance of nights between 1 night cruises to 14 or more night cruises. Because of this, the Disney Wonder scored a 9 in the ports category. For the theme, the Disney Wonder has been decorated in an Art Nouveau style. They have this beautiful chandelier with Ariel in the atrium. They also have that Animator's Palette restaurant. In addition to that, they have Tiana's Place restaurant. Tiana's Place restaurant also comes with a show and specifically themed food for that restaurant. The Wonder also has the Cadillac Bar and Lounge, which is just a really cool, fun vibe. They'll have piano music in here. We really like this bar. And both the Magic and Wonder will have similar youth clubs, including spaces for Marvel and Toy Story in the Oceaneers Club for ages 3 through 12. Because the first 4 ships all have some similarities in their youth clubs, for example, they will all have Toy Story on those first 4 ships, so that will give it a little bit lower score for the extra category since they are on multiple ships. The Disney Wonder also had the French Quarter Lounge added with their last dry dock. It's just a fun little space to visit. For the theming, we give the Wonder a 5. Now for the food, they are going to have those same restaurants, Animator's Palette, and a French restaurant on the Wonder like they did on the Magic. They will also have your general burgers and pizza up on the deck. So for food, we give the Wonder a 7, just because of Tiana's Place is a little bit more fun. For the Pixie Dust and extras on the Disney Wonder, it's going to be that Cadillac Lounge and the fact that there are less people on the ship. The Magic has a special slide and the Wonder does not, so even though they are very similar ships, we're going to give the Wonder a 5 in this category, which gives the Wonder a total score of 26. Moving on to the Disney Dream. The Disney Dream is the 3rd ship in their fleet, with the maiden voyage being January 2011. The Dream and the Fantasy are about 40% larger than the Wonder and the Magic. They also can hold more people. It has 14 decks and can hold approximately 4,000 guests. Coming in with a tough score to beat for the ports is a 10. The Disney Dream has the best ports. The Wonder does come in at a close second, but the Dream definitely has the best ports. The Disney Dream has itineraries available from 1 to 13 nights, and they will be sailing to the Bahamas and the Caribbean, but they will also be sailing to Europe, which includes a transatlantic cruise and some med cruises. In addition, these itineraries will include stops at Disney's private islands, Castaway Cay, or Lighthouse Point. Because of the transatlantic and those European ports, the Disney Dream came out with a coveted score of 10 for their ports. Now, for the theme, almost all of the Bahamian and Caribbean cruises will have a pirate night. We're not actually including that in the theming because all of the ships have some type of exclusive party depending on where and when they are sailing. There are unique stage shows on each ship and they are so fabulous that they cannot compare, so we left that out. Make sure you check out the stage shows while you're on any of the ships. They are truly fabulous. Now, the Dream and the Fantasy actually have less theming than any of the other 4 ships. These were meant to have a really classic feel with just elegant, contemporary atmosphere. The designs are in an Art Deco design, but the atriums are huge and it's really beautiful. For the theming, we give the Disney Dream a 6. Moving on to the food, the Dream and the Fantasy both have something that the other ships do not, and that is Remy. This is an exclusive French dining menu. It's quite expensive, has a lot of courses, but is really good. They also have Enchanté on the Disney Wish, which are both with Chef Arnaud Lallemand and offer really exquisite dining. They will also have Palo, which is on the first 4 ships, with Palo Steakhouse being on the Wish. Those 2 specialty restaurants on the Dream and the Fantasy do give them a little bit higher score, but they are very expensive, so that brings it back down a little bit. For the food, we give the Dream a 6, and that really is because of Remy. Now, the extras and pixie dusting on the Disney Dream are some of our favorites. They have the Aqueduct. This is their first water coaster at sea. It is a lot of fun. Make sure you do it during the day and the night because the lights are really cool as well. They have the Rainforest Room, which is a part of the spa. This is an additional charge. But the Rainforest Room on the Dream and Fantasy have 2 hot tubs that overlook the water and the bridge. Absolutely worth the money in my opinion. We got very lucky and never saw anybody in these hot tubs. Another thing the Dream will have that we really enjoy is the Midship Detective Agency. This is a fun game where it's a mystery that you solve. You'll go around to different art on the cruise ship, and once you signal it, the art will start talking and moving, giving you clues to solve the mystery. It's really a lot of fun. They don't have this on the Magic or the Wonder. For the Wish, they have an Uncharted Adventure, which looks really fun as well. One other thing that the Disney Dream has that the other cruise ships won't is the Marvel Day at Sea. The Marvel Day at Sea is exclusively on the Disney Dream, January, February, and March 2024. The whole day is really extra themed. They're going to have a lot of Marvel characters. They'll have a special Marvel show. So this gives the Disney Dream a little bit of a bump on their score because that's a lot of fun and it is only available for a very limited time on the Dream only. And one other thing that the Dream and Fantasy have a little bit different is Vibe. This is the teen club, ages 14 through 17. They've got a steel door with a hallway and another door behind it that changes colors. You have to have an age appropriate badge to open those doors unless you go during open house. And they have their own private pool. For those reasons, the Dream and the Fantasy wins Vibe theming hands down. Of course, that's not its own category, but we definitely consider it. Because of all of that, the Dream is going to get an 8 for their special theming pixie dusting category, which gives the Dream a total score of 30. Moving on to the Fantasy. Now, of course, the Dream and the Fantasy have a lot of similarities, but one thing that they do very differently is their ports. The Dream has a stellar port lineup, while the Fantasy sticks to one area. The Fantasy has Bahamian and Caribbean cruises exclusively. Within that comes the Pirate Night and the Castaway Cay or Lookout Cay at their new private island, Lighthouse Point. That lack of variety is going to pull their port score down a little bit, but they also are going to have a Pixar Day at Sea, so that might help a little bit. For the ports, the Fantasy gets a 5. For theming, the Disney Fantasy is very similar to the Dream, with one exception, their adult section, and the Disney Fantasy is a Europe themed area, and it's just a lot of fun. It really is a lot of theming in this area, and we especially enjoyed Ooh La La. It gets really busy, so if you're trying to go to listen to piano music, you have got to get there early because all the seats will be taken. The Disney Fantasy is very similar to the Disney Dream. Its maiden voyage was in March 2012 and can also hold approximately 4,000 people. The Disney Fantasy is also going to have that really understated elegance, but their atrium is huge and really beautiful. So I guess understated is not quite the right word upon reflection. They do have 14 decks, and the bronze statue in the atrium is going to be our beloved Minnie Mouse. Again, this is really going for that old ocean liner feel, and there's not a lot of additional theming in the ship, outside of the kids' clubs, of course. So the Fantasy is going to get a 6 on theming. As for the food, Disney Dream and Disney Fantasy have the same menus. They're not always the same name of restaurant, but it is the same food. So we took that into consideration. And of course they do have Remy, which bumps that score up just a little bit. So for the food, the Fantasy gets a 6. It would definitely be lower without Remy. The Dream and Fantasy will have similar extras as well. The aqueduct is on both of them, that hot tub in the rainforest room. And the Midship Detective Agency is on there as well. They also have some mini golf that is available on the Dream and the Fantasy. And while the Disney Dream will have Marvel Day at Sea, the Disney Fantasy will have Pixar Day at Sea. That is available only from January through March 2024. That definitely bumps the theming up a notch. We have an 8 for the Fantasy in their extra Pixie Dust category. That leaves the Fantasy coming in with a total score of 25. Which is a little surprising. We'll go into exactly why this has the lowest number. So, how do they stack up? The Magic comes in at the bottom with a score of 24. Next we have the Fantasy, which is a score of 25. I was rather surprised to see that. We'll go into some of the details why. The Wonder has a 26, with the Dream and the Wish both tied at 30. Now, a lot of people do say that the Fantasy is their favorite cruise ship, and I agree with that. The Fantasy is a preferable ship to me over the Dream. That is because of the adult area. I do like that Europa setup that they have, but their limited ports really takes them down a notch when comparing them to the Dream. That being said, if you are going to the ship specifically for the ship, I would say the Dream and Fantasy are absolute equals. There is no 5-point variance if you are going for the ship, because their ships are very similar. They're very fun. They have a lot of great aspects and theming, immersiveness, trivia, all of that stuff, but the Disney Dream has such better ports going to Europe and the transatlantic, so that is specifically why the Dream is up at the top and the Fantasy is at the bottom. Those completely flip, of course, if you're not planning on going to those ports. The Wish is tied up there with the Dream for the top. This again is going to come down to ports. If you are really looking for a good port cruise, that's not really going to be the Wish. The Wish goes to Nassau and Disney Cruise Line's Private Island. That's it. You're not going to get much variety. They're only 3 and 4 day cruises, or the Dream and Fantasy will have 7-night cruises, and the Dream even more nights because of the transatlantic and Europe. And the Wonder is in there with a very solid 26. While it has a little bit less theming, it has some really excellent ports. So it comes down to what you want from the ship and what you want from the ports. One of the reasons we love the Wonder is because of the Cadillac Lounge. Also though, if you're considering the ports, Disney Wonder's got some really great ports: Hawaii, Australia, New Zealand, Alaska. It is a beautiful ship to go and experience the ship only. You don't have to go to the ports, of course. Sometimes we like to just go and enjoy the ship, but the ports on this Disney Wonders itineraries are really great. So it comes down to a few of those things. If you're planning on doing a lot of port excursions, if you're not going to go to the port at all, and whether or not you are going to spend extra money. Two of our favorite things on the Fantasy and the Dream are Remy, that really upscale French restaurant, which is $150 plus per person, and the Fantasy and the Rainforest Room in the spa. We really love that as well, but it's also an additional charge. Here is a glance at all of them and how they stack up against each other. My final thoughts is, if you want to go spend a lot of money on your cruise, Rainforest Room, really great Remy dining, expensive ports going to Europe, you're definitely wanting the Dream. If you want a more classic feel that is going to go to a variety of ports, the Magic has that. The Wonder also has great ports with Alaska, New Zealand, Australia. So for those ports, you definitely have to go on the Wonder. And the Fantasy really sticks with those Caribbean cruises. So if you want to go to the Caribbean, you definitely want to choose the Fantasy. So it can be easier to budget because of that. And of course, the Wish, the brand new ship, the major theming, they're only going to go to the Bahamas. This one really is for the private island and for the experience on the ship. And of course, those Marvel and Pixar days at sea are exclusive cruises. You have to go on the appropriate ship for that. So there you go, all 5 ships ranked. Of course, we'll do this again when there are more ships out. Let us know in the comments below below. How are you ranking these? Which one is your top and why? Our very favorite ship is the Wonder. We really like the Fantasy because it's bigger, it's got some great adult areas, it does have Remy, which we really enjoy. But I really love the Wonder. It's not going to any of the private islands over the next year, but if you can get a cruise on the Magic or the Wonder that is going to Disney's private islands, you definitely want to consider that, because with less people on the ship, there are less people on the island, which makes that adult beach a beautiful place to be. We love the Wonder. In particular, the Cadillac Lounge really hits home for us. The less amount of people, and we got engaged on the Wonder, so that's definitely our favorite ship. If you haven't seen it yet, go check out that secret must-do video. You definitely want those on your cruise. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you real soon with some more Disneys.